Right, 23 January 2024, and today I'm going to give you yet another update on all the trending stories around Zimbabwe. And today I've got a lot of stories, starting with what is happening at the Zimbabwe Nurses Council. So, as you know, nurses in Zimbabwe have to be regulated, and a lot of nurses want to leave Zimbabwe. So, what has been happening at the Zimbabwe Nurses Council is that they have been collecting US $300 from all the nurses who want to leave the country, and they have been unable to provide the nurses who are in Zimbabwe with the verification certificate which is needed to go overseas. And the reason why they've been failing to provide those certificates is that they're saying General Chiwenga, Vice President General Chiwenga, is the one who has told them not to issue those certificates. And this feature or this ability to issue that certificate has now been taken over to the Ministry of Health. And so far, there are thousands and thousands of Zimbabwean nurses who are affected by this failure to issue the verification certificates, although they're taking the money. So I talked to the head, the Zimbabwe Nurses Council, or the Nurses Council of Zimbabwe, Dr. Hove, and I put it to him that the nurses have said that you are saying that General Chiwenga is the one who gave a directive that there must be no verification certificates issued for Zimbabwean nurses. And he was unable to answer me. He only referred me to the Ministry of Health. And my understanding is that the guys at the Ministry of Health are terrified of General Chiwenga. They are afraid of making any moves, even though he's no longer the Minister of Health. So you remember that General Chiwenga was the Minister of Health during the COVID crisis. So we now have a lot of nurses in limbo who have paid all their monies to the Zimbabwe Nurses Council or the Nurses Council of Zimbabwe, but they are unable to get the certificates. They are unable to move out of Zimbabwe, but the money has already been taken. So imagine if you've got all these thousands and thousands of nurses and the money has been taken, but they're unable to get the verification certificates. They're unable to leave the country, and they blame General Chiwenga. My understanding is that many ministries and many people are scared to do anything as long as it affects Vice President General Chiwenga. So he's very powerful, and I hope that they sort out this issue of verification certificates. So I'll keep following up on this story. The guys first came to me 2 years ago. So you can imagine for the past 2 years, no verification certificates have been issued regarding the ability to leave the country for the nurses. Apologies for that. It's my alarm going off here. Now let's go to the next story, which is related. President of the CCC, Nelson Chamisa, has issued a statement on cholera. So if you go to his Twitter, Chamisa has issued a statement on cholera, and he's given a number of steps that need to be followed. So I'm going to ask the robot to read the statement. Is a very long statement which says what he's supposed to do, what people are supposed to do about cholera. So that is CCC President Nelson Chamisa issuing a statement on cholera. Then we have the story of POTRAZ. POTRAZ is the regulator of Zimbabwe for all the people that deal with telecommunications. And POTRAZ has said they're going to arrest anyone who sells Starlink in Zimbabwe. If anyone sells Starlink, you're going to get arrested in Zimbabwe. And that is a statement that they've issued. Companies like Econet, Tel1, Net1, they're in trouble because of this issue of Starlink. Starlink internet is very efficient. And if they don't up their game, they're going to lose out a lot. Then ZEC has announced 10 uncontested council seats. So I put them here on the screen. So if you look here, there is 10 council seats that are uncontested, mostly in Harare, Chiredzi, and Manyame. So there is Tshabangu was unable to field candidates in most of these areas, and also ZANU-PF was unable to field candidates in some of the areas, or they just neglected to field candidates in those areas. Then ZANU-PF is complaining about the US state spokesperson, Mathew Miller, who congratulated the DRC president for re-election, but did not congratulate ED. They're saying, why did he congratulate the DRC president, but not ED? But it's obvious what happened. That is because of the rigging. Then I want to run through some entertainment stories and some business stories. So let's start with business. Miekles has had a very, very strong performance. They've issued their financial update. The Zimbabwe Cyber City villas are now on sale. That is in the Herald. And Peter Tshabangu has stepped down as the African Sun CEO and will be replaced by Lawrence Ward. Then there is an entertainment story in H Metro. A man called Edward Mavunga has moved in with the boyfriend of his wife. So that story is very, very interesting. You'll see it here. This is the guy who has moved in with the boyfriend of his wife. And this is in Mudido area. They are now living together, him, his wife, and the boyfriend. So that is his second wife. He left his first wife and his kids and moved in with the 22-year-old wife, where she moved on to another boyfriend. Then in terms of cricket, we've got two cricket stories. Two Zimbabwean players, Skanda Raza and Richard Ngarawa, have been named in the top 20 ICC T20 Man of the Year. And Zimbabwean cricketer Brendan Mavuta has been banned for using drugs, for doping. Dynamos is in Kariba for training, and Kalisto Pasiwa now has 4 trophies at Nyasa Big Bullets. That is in Malawi. He's done very, very well. And finally, Andy Murizo is going to tour Australia. So these are the stories that we have for today. And I want to recap before I quickly finish here and run to the gym. So firstly, Zimbabwean nurses are in limbo for the past 2 years after General Chiwenga issued a directive that there should be no certificates of verification issued. This is a certificate that is needed if you want to leave Zimbabwe to go anywhere. And the Minister of Health is blaming General Chiwenga. They say that he gave a directive before he left the ministry, and they're afraid of reversing that order. This is how powerful General Chiwenga is. He can give you an order today, and you will not be able to get those that reversed. So General Chiwenga is the man to watch. If he gives you an order, you're gonna follow that order even if he's gone. This is what is happening here. But I think this is critical. This needs to be sorted out. You cannot have a situation where all the nurses in the country are failing to leave the country because of an order that was given 2 years ago. These guys need to sort out this issue so that nurses can go out of the country freely, because they've already paid the $300. They are collecting thousands and thousands of monies from the of US dollars from the nurses, but then they can't give their certificates because the ministry officials are scared that General Chiwenga will come down hard on them. And Nelson Chamisa has issued a directive on cholera. You have a look at it on his Twitter. He's given a breakdown of what needs to be done to deal with cholera. Cholera is ravaging Zimbabwe. And similarly, there are vaccines taking place in Zambia. If you go to Zambia, they are doing vaccinations. There is a big potential of something really bad happening in Southern Africa if this is not sorted out. People that are coming from Zimbabwe, coming to South Africa, are sick of cholera. There are people who are being hospitalized in South Africa after coming from Zimbabwe. And you don't want this to happen in Victoria Falls. Victoria Falls is the massive generator of income for Zimbabwe. And I'm happy that Chamisa has done this, has issued this statement on cholera, what needs to be done at government level, what needs to be done at local level, which ED has not done. Up to this day, ED has not mentioned cholera, he has not declared a state of emergency. And a state of emergency is necessary to implement certain directives. For example, no vending, no selling of food on the street, use of sanitizers, use of masks for those people that cook, those kind of things. Especially the requirement for people to have the vaccination when they enter Zimbabwe for cholera or when they leave. These are very, very important things that need to be done. People must be clean, and there must be clean water. Chamisa has laid out all these things in his statement. If you go and look at his Twitter, he has done a great, great job there. So this is something that I'm expecting ED to deal with, and he is not dealing with it. I do not know what is happening with ED. Now let's quickly look at the pictures. There is some interesting pictures here. So here is Auxilia Mnangagwa, and ED. They received a truck, a mobile hospital from Belarus President Alexander Lukashenko, which was handed to the Angel of Hope Foundation, and the president of Belarus was represented by Professor Irina Ableskia at State House in Harare. So this, you can see this story, it's all over the newspapers. This is something to do with a handover. There was a lot of ministers here. If you look in the Herald, there are lots of pictures regarding this event. So, you know, an ED, they are very close to the Belarus guys. I don't know what's the relationship there, but they're very, very close together. Then we have fake detectives. So there are a lot of fake detectives. I think these are people who used to be internal state agents who are now masquerading as detectives. So if you look at this group here, these guys were arrested. They go and conduct raids at drug dealers' houses. They drive around in unmarked cars and they steal from people. These guys were arrested and they had conducted a raid at a house in Warren Park, at a drug dealer's house. And then you also have similarly these other guys here, similar story. And what is interesting here is the shoes. You must look at the shoes of these guys. I always want to understand what people are like. So if you see a detective raiding you and they're wearing such shoes, you immediately know that they're not a detective. But look at these guys. I think these guys, they dress like the Zimbabwe detectives. I do not know what can be done about crime in Zimbabwe. Crime is rampant in Zimbabwe in terms of armed crime. There is a lot of armed crime in Zimbabwe at the moment as we speak. Something needs to be done. The security services are not coping with the gun violence in Zimbabwe. This is terrible, what's happening in Zimbabwe. And especially in Harare, people are getting robbed in their homes, especially guys with cash. Shops are being raided. This is a massive problem. So I want to end it here. And I want to thank you, Tawanda from Ireland. And Manyon is saying we should all blame Chiwenga. They akadzosa denzi which around now takutambura. You know, General Chiwenga is in a very, very critical position right now. And I am going to be watching very, very closely what General Chiwenga does. Because what is going to happen in the leadership of ZANU-PF is something that you have never seen before. If General Chiwenga gets into office, there will be a massive clean out of the structure that ED has set up. So I don't think ED is going to allow that. But let's see what Chiwenga does. Let's see how he acts in this current setup. And anyway, as I said, Nelson Chamisa has issued a statement on cholera, but I still haven't seen Nelson Chamisa. I want to see Nelson Chamisa on video. I'm very, very worried about Chamisa. I am concerned that we might be seeing someone tweeting who is not Chamisa. Imagine that. Imagine if someone was just tweeting on Chamisa's phone and it's not him. It's very, very unlike Chamisa to be gone for so long, and I don't understand what's going on. And then in terms of NERA, I want to apologize for putting out that statement that NERA was going to come and talk here with me. The biggest problem is NERA, I don't know who they're taking instructions from. This is a very, very big problem. It seems like they're taking instructions from somewhere else. Because I talked to Engineer Mugari here. We agree on something. He says he's going to come and talk at a certain time. Then at the very last moment, Mugari is no longer able to talk to me. So it means something is going on behind the scenes. I do not know who's giving instructions there. And Monzora, they're in there. And Linda Masarira is in there. So I do not know who's giving them instructions. And I wouldn't want to say they're taking instructions from ZANU-PF or from ED. And he tells them what to do and what not to do. So I think that is something to watch I rarely like to make theories about these guys, but when what is happening with Nera starts happening, where these guys make these strange movements around me, I start thinking maybe these guys are not really in the opposition. And this thought has crossed my mind a number of times. That is Nera really in opposition? And I think Chamisa understands this. That's why he's not in there. And I'm tired of dealing with. In fact, Dumisan is tired of me missing Chamisa. I'm tired of Nera. I don't want to even theorize on what is happening there. If Nera is a real thing or not. And I'm not going to try to talk to Nera. I'm just going to leave them because something is going on. Whenever they need to come talk to me, suddenly at the last minute they're unavailable. I called Mugari yesterday. I was going on a walk at night. I do my walk very late in the night, and we agreed that at 9 o'clock he was going to be here. At 9 o'clock sharp, I gave him a call. He was on standby to talk to me, and I think someone just gave me an instruction not to do it. And this is what worries me. I don't think these guys are operating by themselves. They are getting the strings pulled from somewhere else, and I'm very, very worried about that. It's not normal what Nera is doing. There's something going on there, and I don't want to be part of it. Anyway, I want to thank you all for joining me today, and let me go and do my workout. I'll be back tomorrow with more updates and also share with you. I'll ask the robot to read what President Nelson Chamisa of the CCC has said about cholera in Zimbabwe. Thank you very much, everyone, for watching, and